We're moving into this new year and probably setting goals and thinking about what we want our life to look like, right? And moving into what we want to become our new normal. I'm Katie.
I'm Anna.
She's a psychotherapist.
And she runs a photography empire. Together we make music and we podcast.
To encourage ourselves
and you
to do the things that scare us most. Welcome back, everybody. We're so excited to be here with you.
Yes. Hello. Back on the airwaves.
We are back. Christmas is over, guys. We made it. Made it past the hustle and the bustle. And where does that leave us? It leaves us looking towards the new year.
I always love this part of the year. It's kind of like a limbo because it feels like the whole year's over, even though it's technically not, but the new one hasn't started yet. Like it truly feels like an in-between.
So as we were talking about just looking forward to the new year and what that was going to look like, we started talking about the idea of having a new normal.
Definitely. I feel like we said that phrase in the last episode and we were both just like, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to tell a story really quick about something that happened over on our Doing Scary Things Together page. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we have a page on Facebook called the Doing Scary Things podcast page. Obviously, that's our main page. It's open to the public. But for those of you who want to go in a little deeper and who maybe want the chance to connect with other like-minded people who are sharing their own scary things, and it's not just Anna and I talking at you constantly, we created this private page called Doing Scary Things Together. And we really do want it to morph into something where it's not just Anna and I facilitating it. We want you guys to jump on, post stuff you're doing, successes, failures, questions, and we want other people to respond. So that's our vision. We really hope that'll happen. But I wanted to share a funny story that happened. So a couple weeks ago, I threw a poll up and I meant it as an encouragement, a pat on the back, you're doing great, we're thinking about you. And this is not uncommon, but totally, I think my joke did not land with some people.
Oh no.
But I wanted to talk about it. So here's what happened. So I post this poll and it's like, pick one, right? It says, I'm doing the best I can. I'm killing it. I'm hanging in there. All of these are true. And my point being that if you're out there doing the best you can, your days don't have to always look exciting. They don't always have to feel good, but you're killing it. In my opinion, you're killing it. And so obviously nobody got my humor, my joke there, because I think I was the only one that kind of clicked. All of these are true. But instead, someone went on there, which is great. Love the participation. Somebody went onto the poll and they added an option and they put punching through emotional and financial barriers in order to get there. And that one got a lot of response.
Ooh, yeah. What did you think when you saw that?
Oh man, it hit me hard. It just made me think, okay, this is who we're here for, right? Like we're here with you. We get the struggle, but we know that there are listeners out there who want to start something, but who just are having barriers in their way that they're not sure how to get past. So emotional barriers, financial barriers. Another one we hear a lot is the barrier of time.
And it feels like we do talk about time and money all the time. And I like the addition here of emotional barriers because I think the time and the money barriers and the emotional barriers often have a lot to do with fear, right?
Absolutely. I know that when we started this journey initially, it was huge for us to name the emotion of fear and to say that actually the reason we've put this off for so long and the reason we convinced ourselves this wasn't possible was because of fear. And once we figured that out, we could jump over that hurdle. But before we named it, it's just this ambiguous thing that I mean, I don't know how to get over something that I don't even know what it is.
Totally. It is so crucial to be able to identify your barriers, which, like I said, a lot of times means identifying your fears. And sometimes just identifying them can be discouraging. But if you're going to change something, you have to face it. If you're going to face it, you have to name it. So you got to start there. You have to just keep practicing trying to see it and trying to name it and trying to identify it, because it's sneaky. It can be sneaky.
Absolutely right. You have to name it.
So one of the other barriers that was specifically named was financial barriers. I was thinking about this kind of little nuance of financial barriers earlier. So I just want to kind of throw this out there. I think a lot of times people don't get started because they don't have the money in hand right now and they can't envision or guess how they're going to eventually have it. But I think it's really hard for people to start down the path. You know, their fear is they're going to get to the point in the path where they need the resources and they still don't have them. So many steps don't involve the money at all. Many of your early steps for almost anything are going to be gathering information and researching. You know, it could be educating yourself. It could be shadowing. It could be getting some kind of experience. It could be practicing a skill or building a skill from the ground up. And so a lot of times those things don't cost money. But I think what happens is when people say, oh, well, that's going to cost money and I just can't see how I'm ever going to have that money. So I'm not going to start because then I'll just be setting myself up for failure. And I get that. That's scary. Like, you don't want to, you know, put your heart and soul into something that you feel like is impossible in the end.
But think about it this way. That would just, give me a little bit of leeway here to say this, but it would almost be like saying, I'm not going to live today because I can't afford to live next year. Do you know what I mean? We may not know yet, especially if we're self-employed, we may not know yet what's going to pay our bills next month or 2 months down the road or next year. But we know that we're working every day and jobs are coming in. And so it's piece by piece, we'll get there. And so, yeah, I love that point of okay, so there are financial barriers. We don't have to lie to ourselves. We don't have to say that's not going to be an issue or we're not going to have to face that down the road. But if there's a way to do something else today or to focus on another step today that doesn't have to do with money, then let's start there.
Yeah, because, those further on points down in the road, I mean, almost everything that we set out to do at some point or another involves other people. And when you're progressing towards a goal, that gets people's attention. And so, if you're starting a business, for example, since that's kind of one that you mentioned, I mean, you never know. If you're busting it and you believe in this goal and it's your dream, somebody who wants to invest in your business might see you busting it even when you don't have the money yet. And they might be like, I'm going to put my money behind that person because they're going to get there.
Absolutely. And I love that.
Yeah, they're never going to see you if you're not out there doing it, Yeah,
I was going to say, I love that example because it's the first one begets the second. You can't, they're not going to look at you and invest in you if you haven't done the thing yet.
Right.
If you haven't started, who's going to invest in you because you say, oh, I had this idea and maybe I'll try it in 5 years. You know what I mean? But they're going to invest in the person that is out there, figuring it out.
Right. Who's already giving themselves the chance,
Yeah.
Who's investing in themselves, basically.
Absolutely. Love that.
And, that's an example that's very concrete, a financial investor in a business, but that translates into so many other situations too. If you, are investing in yourself, maybe as an artist of some kind, another person who's a leader in an artist community who might, they might have connections that you don't have. They might see something in you as an artist when you've invested in yourself and say, hey, I want to partner with you. Even if they're just being your mentor or introducing you to people that would love your art. That's an investment too.
Absolutely. Somebody said to me this week, something about when they were meeting people, they were being bold and they were taking the chance to tell them, what they wanted to do. And they weren't necessarily saying it in a way of like, one day I'm going to. It was more of like, I have confidence in myself. I'm going to just put it out there. This is what I do, right? It's that age old, like, can I call myself a writer? Can I call myself a musician?
Right.
Can I call myself, a doctor? I'm just in med school or whatever. And so they were doing that. And they said, what that does for me is it lets other people do the hard work for me. Because if that person knows, they start thinking, can I connect them with somebody? Do they know somebody that could help me? And of course, not everybody does that, right? That's a very unselfish thing to do, to be a connector. But a lot of people do. A lot of people want to help. And and so they're saying, I'm just putting it out there into the world. I'm saying that this is what I do. And if anybody knows somebody that can help me, I'm believing that they're going to. And so I love what you said about that, of just putting it out there,
Totally. It's like, it's an association thing, even if it's like, the most mild version of that, where they're just like, oh yeah, I just met someone who does X, Y, and Z, or who's interested in X, Y, and Z. Like, this is a silly example, but it reminds me of when I got married, we had peacock feathers in our wedding decorations. And
yes,
I wore peacock feathers in my hair. Woohoo. Like, they were beautiful. And we love blue and green and red. And so we had those jewel tone colors like in our wedding. And for years, people gave us peacock stuff. It would be like my mom's coworker saw a peacock ornament and got it and gave it to my mom to give to us for Christmas, because we're like the peacock people. And it's like, actually, it just nicely fit with the colors that we like. We really aren't obsessed with peacocks. But it's like that association that's kind of meaningless, traveled really far and was holding on for years in the consciousness of all these people that we didn't even know. And so how much more helpful could it be when it's something that you care about, that, characterizes part of your identity? That's what you do. That's what you're good at. That's way more important than a peacock feather. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love that example because here's another side of it. People do remember what you tell them, right? And how you represent yourself. And this is just something I'm learning as well. But, if you're out there saying well, I would really love to do this, but I'm afraid, blah, 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 blah. Is that person going to refer you to somebody else or be like, this person's really good at this? No, they heard what you said about yourself. They heard you say, I'm too scared to start.
Right.
And there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not condoning lying or misrepresenting yourself, but having the courage to step into what you are doing. You're allowed to do that.
Definitely.
And to tell people I'm doing this. I'm looking for opportunities here.
Yes.
And I think people will remember that.
I think so too. And that's the power of the frame, right? It's not that you have to have some shiesty angle to tell people what you're doing or to over exaggerate it or misrepresent it. But I think the truth is, you have to frame it in a positive way that sort of communicates momentum and commitment and confidence. But the secret sauce is you really have to believe that,
Yeah.
It's totally fine to be scared every single day and have your doubts about it. But all I'm saying is you can say those things authentically when that's how you are framing it to yourself. When that's the way that you're choosing to look at it every day, then that's how you will talk about it to other people. You know what I mean?
100%. And that is an excellent segue.
Yes.
Excellent work.
Thank you.
I love writing segues. No, that's an excellent segue because one of the things I wanted to talk about is as we're moving into this new year and probably setting goals and thinking about what we want our life to look like, right? And moving into what we want to become our new normal, I want to warn everybody about self-limiting beliefs. If that's a foreign term to you, then it's not foreign anymore. So just want to throw that out there. Self-limiting beliefs. What do we believe about ourselves that is limiting our actions. And so I want just to encourage you to listen to the things you're saying about yourself.
Yeah.
And even pay attention to the things you're thinking. And so if you find yourself saying things like, I'm not good at that, or I could never do that because, I just want to encourage you, stop right there. Just stop, throw it out, never say that again. And let's work on reframing those, right? So some examples would be to reframe that to something like, I'm not good at that yet because I haven't put the time to get better at it, right? We talk about that all the time of nobody's good the day they start. You're still allowed to pursue things you're not good at. And so I'm not good at that yet. I'm not the best at that yet. Think about reframing it to something like, I'm working on getting better at that. So I think that goes back to exactly what you just said. You're not telling yourself every day, I can't do that. You're saying, I'm working on getting better at that. I think that's a beautiful example of that. I'm getting a little better each day. Like, I love the positivity in something like that. Like, I'm getting better each day. And so I would just say, practice reframing those things. If you're noticing that you're thinking them a lot or you're saying them a lot, practice reframing them. And then in your goal setting, whatever it is you're trying to work towards in this new year, revisit these things frequently. So, because if every day you're reminding yourself, I'm working on getting better at that, I'm working on that today, then over a period of time, guess what? You actually will be working on those every day and you will be getting better at those every day.
Yeah. And the beautiful bonus to that is that when you are reminding yourself and you are mindful of the fact that you are getting better every day, you are literally priming your brain to see the progress.
Yes.
And how much more progress do you see when over and over you hear in your mind or from yourself out loud or from other people out loud, you're getting better at this versus I can't do it. You're not, even if you happen to make progress believing you can't do it, you're not going to see it. That doesn't fit with your belief. So you're not going to see it.
Right. Oh, that's huge. Yeah. Yeah. Like, what if you are working on it and getting better at it, but you still are in this mindset of like, I'm not good at that. You're never going to believe it. And I've totally met people that are stuck there and they can't see it. They can't see their progress. And what a miserable experience, even. Like, people talk about, enjoying the journey. And I know that's such a hard one.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like, enjoying being in the middle, enjoying the time where you're learning. That is so hard.
Yeah.
But think about that. If you're not letting yourself see the progress and celebrate those little things, little by little, you will totally be missing out on what other people can see in you.
Right. And that actually is a great segue to something that I've been thinking about as we've been talking about self-limiting beliefs, that maybe it's hard for you to identify those. Like, maybe you're not sure what your self-limiting beliefs are, but sometimes the key is other people, because like you said, they see you in a different way than you see yourself. They don't live inside your head with you, right? Thank goodness, right?
Being so critical of yourself.
That's right. And so those other perspectives can be invaluable. So if you aren't sure about your self-limiting beliefs, or even if you think you are sure about them, run them through some conversations with other people. If your scary thing is something that you already talk about with your friends or family or other supportive people in your life, pay attention to yourself talking about it next time you're discussing it with them. If that's really scary for you, come join our Facebook group and talk to some kind of strangers about it. Sometimes that's easier. But even if you go to, type a post in a private group with strangers about what you're doing in your life, like, you might see, oh, I almost just typed, I don't think I can do this. Maybe you aren't aware that that's how you feel, or like that's what you really believe. So I think a lot of times talking to other people about it in some form or fashion kind of forces us to become a little more aware of what those beliefs are. So if you don't know where to start there. start looking for what your beliefs are and see if they're self-limiting.
I love that. I think it's great advice. Another thing that just popped in my head is what we were kind of talking about earlier of like practice talking about what you want to do out loud and see what comes out of your mouth. See the way you describe it. Like, do you describe yourself as just some noob that doesn't have any business trying this, or like, I don't know how I'll ever get there. Like, just what comes out of your mouth when you talk about the thing you want to pursue. And that might be a good place to start as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of us tend to just try and qualify and disclaim everything we're about to say, you know, when we don't feel like we're there yet. But
qualified, yeah,
that's totally an indicator of what your beliefs are about yourself and what you're doing and your dream, you know?
Totally.
And that's normal. It's very normal.
It's so normal. And like we've said a million times on the podcast, everybody feels that way on certain days or in the beginning, you know, nobody feels qualified. You know, it's called imposter syndrome. Like nobody feels ready a lot of times. And you just got to make yourself, you know, step into that.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to do it.
100%. Also, just to go back, I didn't mean to skip over the idea that a lot of people feel like they don't have time to pursue their passions. I know we did do an episode about that at the year end of last year, 2018. So that might be a good one to revisit if you're feeling that way. But I just want to encourage people again, like we do have time, and time is our biggest asset. And everybody's situations are going to be different, but, you know, if you feel like you don't have time, I would encourage you to start tracking your time. That's something that Anna does a really great job at. She tracks how much time she spends on each of her jobs, and it's just been really, really fascinating from my perspective. You know, I want you to share about that in a minute if you want to, but track your time, track how you're spending your time. If you're not at work, what are you spending your time on? Can we grab 10 minutes here? Can we grab 3 minutes here? Can we wake up an hour earlier, you know, and get some stuff done? And so, that would be my challenge. If you feel like there's no time, find 5 minutes from somewhere and let's start there and build on that.
Yeah, I have to plug tracking your hours if you have a smartphone. You know, it's one of those things you have to develop it as a habit a little bit, but it becomes second nature very fast. And for me personally, that has helped me so much because, I mean, for most of my adult life, at least, for sure, I've always chronically felt like I'm never doing enough, you know, I'm never getting enough done. Turns out that's just because I have really unrealistic expectations about what I should be able to get done in a fixed period of time. But, you know, probably sounds familiar to a lot of people, but that really has helped me to verify, right? To not really trust my impression of if I've done enough or how many hours I've worked on something. I have data that tells me, no matter how you feel, look, you objectively did do enough, you know, and that's super helpful and frees me a lot. You know, there are many times that I get midway through Wednesday or Thursday and I'm like, I've already done enough for this week, according to the realistic, objective expectation that I set for how many hours I'm going to work this week, you know, and
that's huge.
Yeah. And then if I continue to work on something after that, like that's my free choice. I'm not doing that because I feel like it's not enough. It's not enough. Yeah.
I think that's great advice. One of the practices that I have implemented over the years that has helped me tremendously, it came from Donald Miller and the Story brand. They had created this kind of productivity outline for a day, and you fill in, and they had done all this research, and they said, you know, you can really only focus on 3 things a day, like 3 big things a day. So you kind of outline what you want those things to be. And, you know, we all know I usually list 7 and then I'm doing my emails for 2 hours and I'm all over the place. Right. And it's so easy to get discouraged. And so the thing I really liked about that piece of paper that they put out was at the end of every day, list 3 things that you did well. And, it wasn't always those 3 things that we were trying to get done, but it was like, I did this, I did this, I did this. And sometimes just reminding yourself. And so I'm not trying to get off topic, but again, if you're the busy mom or you're doing 3 jobs or, you just totally laughed and rolled your eyes when I said earlier that you do have time, if you're in that situation, I would encourage you, like I said, find 5 minutes and then start writing down at the end of each day what you did with that 5 minutes. Because I think you might surprise yourself with what you can do in that amount of time. There's a few examples I could go off on, but I'm thinking of my friend Betsy Garman, who's been kind of a creativity mentor to all of us. And she raised 5 kids and she's always been an artist. She's amazing at creating things. And she was like, when I was in the thick of it and I had these 5 kids and I had no time for myself, she started making these really beautiful journals because she said it was something containable. It was something she could carry around with her. And then if she's in the carpool line and she's got 3 minutes, she can open up this journal and work on it. And now she does courses on how to create journals. It's just this really beautiful thing that it's grown into. But that came from the limitation of constantly being on the go, always, having very limited amount of time, and needing something that she could carry around with her. She couldn't carry around huge canvases to paint on. She's got 5 kids in the car, so I love that example of, I can't tell you what your limitations look like, but I know that if you look for it, there is going to be a way to, create in the space that you have.
Yeah, I love that too. That is such a brilliant example. And Betsy is such a brilliant mentor and creator. Shout out to you, Betsy Garman. We love you. But I just love that because that whole attitude is, so how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
She didn't dig in her heels and say, how am I going to bring a 10-foot by 12-foot canvas in the car with me to pick up the kids? No, that actually was a real limitation, but right. She thought outside of the box and found a way to do it instead.
Yeah. And she also didn't say I can't do that right now. She didn't even say I can't do it until my kids are grown. She said, what can I do now? And I just want to remind everybody, in case you're new to the podcast, we strongly believe that everybody is creative, and the definition of creativity is solving problems. And so in light of that, when we come up against these barriers, emotional, financial, time, whatever they are, we are problem solvers, and we have the privilege to solve this problem. We have resources that we can use. We have something we can use. And sometimes, like Anna said, sometimes it is other people. Maybe if we talk with other people about it, they can shed some light on it that we wouldn't have been able to see. And maybe it's just sticking with something long enough or believing in ourselves enough that one day in a few months, we can look back and realize that we really are making progress. But I just want to encourage everyone that there is a way, and we're just here for this process.
And we also firmly believe that nothing is wasted. Betsy working on her journals for 3 minutes in the car was not a waste of time. It was not a futile effort. It continued her life as an artist. It continued her work. It continued her skills. It wasn't a huge canvas, but it still counts. It still mattered, and it still moved her forward.
Yeah. And I really think from hearing her talk about it, she would even describe it more as like a lifeline, because, and I'm sure mothers can relate that, you don't have a lot of time to yourself, right? And like, I have a lot of friends who are trying to figure that out. Like, who am I besides mom? You know, like, who am I? I don't really remember because it's been so long since I had time to think about it. So again, if that's 3 minutes a day to remember who you are, you know, and what you love and to do those things, then please find those 3 minutes.
Bam.
Bam. Whew, I got worked up there. I was preaching.
I love it. It's really good. It's good stuff.
We really do believe this stuff if that's not evident. But yeah, and I just wanted to encourage everybody. So as we're thinking about our new normal and we set goals, and I know a lot of people roll their eyes about New Year's resolutions, and rightly so. Like, how many times do people say, like, I'm going to do these 10 things. I'm never going to eat like a carb again. And like, you know, like whatever, the most unrealistic goals. And then we don't think about them anymore, right? Like past January 2nd, we don't even remember what we said we were going to do. And so I wanted to give an example of like a marathon runner, like somebody who says, okay, my goal for next year, I'm going to run a marathon. But guess what? They don't train. They don't think about it. They forget they even said that. And then all of a sudden it's time to run the marathon. They are not ready. And like, whose fault is it, right? Like, are they just going to condemn themselves and say like, I'm not a marathon runner. It's just not for me. Like, I can't do it. Like, that would be crazy, right? Because nobody running that marathon did what they did and like didn't try, didn't prepare, didn't start. You know, if you really want to run a marathon, you have to take the steps to do it. You know, maybe you start by researching how to run a marathon, like how to train, like what do I do week 1? What do I do week 2? What do I do week 3? You come up with a plan, right? Then you make sure you have the right gear. Like, I need shoes. I can't run in the whatever I have. Like, I have to get the right kind of tennis shoes. It's cold outside. I have to get the right gear. And then you start, right? You do your plan. You do week 1, you do day 1, day 2, day 3, and then the marathon comes and you're ready. And you may still be scared and you may not know that you can do it, but you've prepared and you probably can do it.
Yeah. You've given yourself the best chance to actually do it.
Yeah. And it's not going to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that because I haven't started. I haven't prepared, but instead you're working on it every single day. And so whatever your goals are for the year, I would just encourage you to start breaking those down into actionable steps. What are you going to do day 1? What are you going to do day 2? What are you going to do day 3? That it's going to be not exciting. It's not going to feel good. Day 15 is not going to feel exciting. But remember, you have 3 minutes a day to get where you want to be, and you can do it. You just got to do it every single day. And I'm literally talking to myself right now because I have so many goals.
Yeah, you're talking to me too, so don't worry about that. And if we're not segue queens today, I don't know what we are, because
killing it.
That is the perfect segue into my end of the year confession.
I'm so excited.
That I need to make before 2020 can really get off the ground here. And that confession I'm sharing with y'all because I think a lot of people are going to relate to it. I know in my heart that I'm not alone in this, but my confession is that I really, truly have a love-hate relationship with morning routines. And when we're talking about setting goals and we're talking about the new year and all that we want to do, there's a lot of chatter about morning routines and how important they are.
Yes.
And I know from experience, both from doing them consistently for periods of time and from totally not doing them at all for long periods of time, that, you know, net result, I think they are very valuable. But they're hard. They're so hard for me, you know?
Yeah.
And so as I was thinking about this year and my love-hate relationship and, now's my fork in the road. Am I going to try to commit to, a morning routine when this new year starts? Because I've been, as we talked about all last episode, in massive transition. I haven't committed to it yet, but I want to, but it's daunting. And so, as I've been thinking about that, I think back to other times that I've done them, and I think about all the different advice that there is out there about morning routines and all the different things that are important to different people, right? It's like, start your morning with water, start your morning with meditation, start it with exercise or writing or reading, or, it's like an endless laundry list. And all those things have value and they all sound appealing, but more than like one or two of those things at a time for me is just overwhelming enough that I won't do it. Or if I do start and I get off track for one day, I will not return to it.
Yeah.
And thus the vicious cycle continues. Thus the love-hate relationship. But so I'm not totally sure what my final answer is yet about the specifics of what I'm going to do for my morning routine, but I am ready to say I'm going to have one. And these are my criteria.
Okay.
I'm going to use these two criteria to make a short list for my morning routine. And they are, what is the most important to me? And what sets up a good headspace for me for the rest of the day?
Ooh, I like that. So when you say what's most important to you, what are you talking about?
I think for this year, because of, and also I will say that answer can change. I'm not picking what's the most important thing for me for the rest of my life. It's like for this year, for this moment in time, in this morning routine, what's most important. And for me, it's going to be something music related, because I know that whatever I do first is the thing that definitely gets done and definitely gets my attention before I have the chance to get spent and exhausted and scattered and distracted by all the other things.
Right.
So that's going to be something music related. Some things fall in both categories. Like for me, praying and meditating, like those things kind of fill both. So that's very important to me, and it sets up my mental headspace for the rest of the day.
Yeah. I love that.
So I know that's going to be in there too. But if there's anything else I'm considering and it doesn't fit in those two criteria somehow, it's not going on the morning routine. It might still be a priority for that day. It might be a to-do list item, but it's not going to be part of my morning routine.
Well, I love that. And I think, and let's just keep in mind, there might be some people listening that aren't familiar with what a morning routine is. And so, you can Google it. There is tons of stuff out there. And like Anna said, there's stuff that both of us have tried in the past and benefited from. But I would just like to say, I think the point of a morning routine is exactly what you're saying. It's like, do the kind of the hardest thing first, or the thing that, like in the case of music, it's like doing the thing that you're not really going to be as focused if you do like an hour of emails first, right? It's kind of that idea. Like, what can I put my best efforts to first thing in the morning? And then also, again, like you said, is getting set up for the day that you want to have, the things you want to focus on. So I think that's brilliant. And I think if it's a long laundry list of things and it's daunting, that's the word I was thinking of. It seems daunting. It seems like this is going to take too much time and I have to get to this appointment, or I have to feed myself or my kids or whatever. Like, if that's daunting, that's not the point of a morning routine.
Right.
The point of a morning routine is exactly what you're saying. Like, get in the right headspace that's going to serve you. So I love that idea, picking two things, focusing on that, and just getting it done.
Yeah, man. So I think mornings are going to be enriching instead of stressful or empty. Right now my mornings are whatever, because I haven't committed to anything and I start fresh every day, and that's fine too. Sometimes for a season, that's what you need. And,
yes,
that's great. But I want to commit to the morning routine thing. And I'm sure a lot of other people are in that same boat looking at the new year. So that's just my little own personal 2 cents about it.
Well, I love that. And how I personally feel if I don't have a plan is I feel chaotic, right?
Yes.
And so that's not how I want to go into the new year.
Right.
I want to go into the new year with a plan, with these actionable steps towards the goals that I've set for myself, that I know, like, this week I'm doing this month I'm doing this. By the end of the year or whatever, I'm going to be so much closer, right? And so I love that each day I start by figuring this out, figuring out my headspace, telling myself I can do it, I'm getting better, and just going for it.
That reminds me too, like, everyone is so different. And so for me, I've learned by experimenting really over the years that the headspace thing is the most important for me. For some people, they're way more somatically centered in their being, in their body. And so that might be like you're meal prepping every morning. That might be you're working out first thing every morning and you're setting your body up to be in the right space for the day. And that's totally fine. You know, for me, it's a headspace thing. And I've learned that.
Yeah, you got to do what's best for you. I know a lot of writers that are trying to get in their words first thing in the morning. And I get it, but I can't do it. Because if I've got anything in my mind that I know I'm going to have to do, I can't write until I do it because my brain is just going a million miles a minute, you know? So yeah, do what's best for you, what works for you, and don't beat yourself up about the rest of the stuff.
That's right. On the contrary, figure out what works best for you and then defend it.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Like, if this is not the case, but let's just say that my husband was the kind of person who was like, you know, needed to work out first thing every morning. And he's like, you got to come with me and work out. We're going to do that first thing in the morning. No, I need to defend my mental space.
Yeah.
That works for you, not for me.
Yes.
He would laugh so hard if he heard that because he is not that person. But, you know, just for example, like when you learn what works for you, you have to also be willing to defend it.
You do. You have to defend your time. I love that. A book I read recently, I recommended it all over my Facebook page, so you can go find the name of it because it's escaping me. But it was about writing, and he said, you have to practice telling people what you need.
Yes.
So if you need this time every day, it doesn't matter what anybody else needs from you. You know, practice telling them what you need so that when somebody comes to you with a legit need, probably like somebody's hungry or whatever, it still doesn't matter because right now you need this and you've practiced it, and it's not as hard to say if you've practiced it. And then you know, like, what you're going to say, you know.
And people get used to it then.
Oh, totally.
It's fine. Usually the first part's the worst, where you're like, I don't want to rock the boat or whatever, but
yeah, people want to help you. People want to give you what you need. And so it's just being bold to, well, A, to know what you need, and B, to defend it. Love that.
Yeah. Boundaries. Love it.
Whew, boundaries. Another topic for another day.
And that's a topic for your entire life. Boundaries are hard and ever present or not present, and should be.
That should be the name of your first book, Anna. Boundaries are hard.
Boundaries are hard. Listen, they are. They surely are.
Anyway, we're going to hop off here. We're going to take a couple weeks off, but we are cheering for you.
Yes.
We are going to be around on Facebook and Instagram and all the places. Make sure you're subscribed so you know when our next episode is up. And let us know how you're doing on those goals.
Yes, we will catch you officially in 2020, but we'll be walking right alongside you until then.
See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye. Hey friends, Katie here. We hope you've enjoyed this episode all about how to get closer to the new normal you want for your life. If something resonated with you here, or if you just want to chat a little more about what this process could look like for you, would you do me a favor? Hop over to katiesnyder.com. That's KATIESNYDER.com. Hit the contact bar and send me a message. I help people just like you figure out what's standing in the way of them living the life of purpose they deserve. Maybe that means creating an exit strategy out of a job that doesn't fulfill you. Maybe it means narrowing down your options to finally figure out what you actually want to pursue and do with your life. Or maybe it just means having someone to talk to you about your current frustrations and situations you feel stuck in. Whatever the case, I'd love to talk about it and figure out if there's something I can help you walk through. I'm offering listeners of the podcast $300 off their first coaching session package, and that's not something I'm going to offer anywhere else. So give me a call, send me a message. Let's start creating a life you're excited about living today.
Thanks for joining us today on the Doing Scary Things podcast. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss one, leave a review, and share it with a friend. You can find our show notes and all kinds of other information at doingscarythings.com, as well as our new album, Whisper, under the band name Jasper and Jade. Until next time.
We're going to wing it, and it's going to be awesome.
I know. Look at us go. I can feel myself sprouting wings right now. You already have wings, so.
Do I?